Hey, Run Try Bike community. Welcome to the 124th episode of the Fireside Chat, which is a part of the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network brought to you by Run Try Bike. That's us. Some housekeeping before we get on to our very special guest today. Our next Fireside Chat on September 10th will have guest Lauren Callahan, who is going to be talking about gut health specifically for women. And then we have a very special Fireside Chat coming up on September 11th with guest Jason Fitzgerald, who is a running coach. We're going to talk to him about how he works with his athletes and what coaching means to him. So now on to today's episode. Joining us today will be Adam Roeske, who is from Ghost Health and is training for his very first marathon, but it's not his very first long distance run, as he has already run an ultra marathon. So he's working his way backwards. Instead of going up in distance, he's going down in distance. Adam is an international man of mystery, as we've come to find out as we were chatting with him backstage, who also happens to have a gut of steel, it seems like. So we're going to have fun with the food conversation at the end of the show. But before we waste too much time, let's bring forward Adam and have him join our show on our 124th episode of our Fireside Chat. Hey, Adam, how are you, buddy?
Doing well. Thanks for having me, Jason. Really appreciate it.
So the very first question, we were talking about pizza in backstage in the green room. So the very first question, because I know you lived in New York City and you love food as a foodie, pineapple on pizza, yay or nay?
Big nay for me.
Oh.
Big nay, dude.
Oh, man.
I can't do fruit on pizza. It's just problematic for my gut.
It's not even that. Look, you have a gut of steel based on the story you just told us about traveling around India. So I don't think that's the problem. I think you and I both know the real problem is just tastes terrible.
It tastes horrible. With the ham as well, it's not a good duo. I can't do it.
Okay, what is your go-to topping on pizza?
Something spicy, sure. I do like a bit of spice on my pizza. Big mushroom guy as well. Love a fungi. There's actually a spot in New York, Lindustry Pizza, that does a killer fungi with a little truffle oil on top. Love that.
Ooh, spicy mushroom and truffles. I think I can get over it this time.
So if you're ever in Seattle, and for anybody who's listening and you love mushrooms and spicy, the joint is called Bambino's. It's on Cedar Street and 4th. And it is one of the best pies I've ever had. It's a white pizza, and it has mushrooms, all kinds, with Calabrian peppers on there. So it's really spicy and a little bit of truffle oil, and it cannot be beat when it comes to white slices. Cannot.
Dude, that's right up my alley right there.
Yeah.
I'll book a ticket just to go there.
You could go check out the Space Needle, right? Because it's right across the street from the Space Needle, so you can't miss either one of those two things. Still icons.
That's awesome.
Well, Adam, thanks for joining us. I want to get started in talking to you about training for the New York City Marathon, because as I said in the introduction, this is your first marathon, but this is not your first foray into long distance running. You've already run an ultra. But why pick the New York City Marathon to be your first marathon?
Great question. To be honest, because I used to live in New York City, I experienced the Manhattan Marathon for the first time without running in it. And I thought it was one of the most electric sporting events I've ever attended. The amount of people on the street, the happiness, it's also a great time of year. So it's kind of sunny, but not too hot. It just looked like something that I really wanted to be a part of. And so I had a couple friends kind of running in it, and I was attempting to cycle alongside. Very quickly realized that is impossible for the New York City Marathon. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to hop the subway and just try and get to multiple spots. No matter where I was in the city, I think I went from down in Staten Island to Brooklyn, up to the Bronx, and then over into Central Park. And every single part was just electric. People were all over the streets. It was just such a cool place to be in at that moment. So that is what really inspired me to do it, to be honest.
Where were you when you had like the most memorable spot for cheering and seeing in the electricity of the crowds?
100% Bedford Avenue. Bedford Avenue in Brooklyn is the most electric spot. You have every single little path and like T-junction. There's a live band on the side of the street, just tuning out. All the different bars and restaurants have like an outdoor seating area, so people are just downing pints. It is such a vibe on Bedford for sure.
Dude, that is the exact opposite of the feeling I got when I ran the Vegas Marathon. So it was a rock and roll event, and they sell it as, you know, there's bands at every mile. And this was the inaugural year they were doing it at night. And the gun goes off, and I'm hauling ass because I'm trying to get a Boston qualifier. Narrator, he missed by about 20 minutes. And I'm running through this section that is in like the warehouse district of Vegas off the strip. And all they have is like little radios playing. And I'm like, what is this? So I can only imagine like the electricity of having bands and tons of people, you know, on the streets cheering for you.
It's awesome. Yeah. And I was one of the people cheering. So hopefully this time round, there'll be some people cheering me on. No, it's awesome. I really enjoyed that experience, and it gives me a reason to go back to New York as well, which I'm always keen for.
Yeah. So speaking of which, I introduced you as an international man of mystery. You're calling in from Mexico City. You said you lived in Manhattan for a couple of years. When we exchanged emails a number of months ago, you were in Turkey. So like, how does all of this work when it comes to training for this event and traveling as much as you are?
Yeah, it's tough. It's definitely hard. You know, being in the entrepreneurial world as well, trying to manage my time with work, personal life, and then training is very difficult. With all the travel as well. I think I kind of, especially with the travel, I look at it as more of a plus than something that's negative. It gives you the opportunity to kind of jump into different environments and terrains. You know, in Turkey, I was doing a lot of trail running. When I was in the US, I was running on road. Here in Mexico, you got a bit of both. So especially with the elevation differences, right? Like here, we're at 7,400 feet. New York's at pretty much zero elevation. And Turkey, I think I was at like 1,500. So just getting the difference in experience between those has been really helpful in getting me prepared. And so I think in terms of managing time, it's really whenever I have the time. I'm more of a morning guy. So I typically will get up, you know, 6 o'clock, try and get in my run, and then do the work day. I'm not very productive in the evenings. So it's about getting it in the morning for me. Sometimes it's a little too hot or it's raining. I mean, like here in Mexico City at the moment, we've got like hurricane season at the moment. So knowing when the best time of day to run outside can be challenging. But it's definitely a struggle, you know, and I think that's kind of part of it, which I really enjoy. It's like how it's more of a challenge for me to do well, because of all the moving and because of the fact that I am in all of these different environments and terrains.
And what I like is that you don't shy away from the fact that it is a struggle because you're traveling to all these places, but you're still managing your training and you are an entrepreneur. But at the same time, you're keeping this abundance mindset of like the enrichment that it brings you. And I'm just trying to wrap my mind around the fact that, like, you know, with the work that you do, like managing the different time zones and also just managing other factors like weather and type of terrain, it's got to be both a struggle, but also like just an incredibly enriching experience to go to somewhere like Turkey and then be running in Mexico City. And I just got to imagine, you know, when you're looking at the journey going into the race and looking at this training block, you've got to be thinking like, man, like I started over here and I finished here. I mean, for me, when I was training for a race in Nepal last year, I started my training in India when I was visiting family, and I ended up finishing out in Flagstaff and then doing my last couple of weeks in Nepal. So it was, you know, not like similar but different. So I could kind of sort of understand it, you know?
Yeah, totally. It's great to run in all of these different places. You know, my Strava is has definitely the international man of mystery on there. never a dull moment on Strava, that's for sure.
So when you upload your runs, sometimes it's like, oh, you were in this country, so it's kilometers. And now you're in the US, it's in miles, right? Like changing the metric system constantly.
Dude, and sometimes it's days apart. Like I was a couple of weeks ago, before coming to Mexico City, I was in Turkey. Prior to that, I was in Germany. So I went from Egypt to Germany to Turkey to the UK, all in a matter of kind of like 6 or 7 days. And each Strava run was just like traveling Europe. And I had somebody comment in my Strava, you might as well just run from country to country. I don't know why you're wasting your time taking the plane, dude.
So I gotta ask you, man. There's a local legend joke in there somewhere, because I know that I always find favorites for trails, and while I love to explore, and with you moving around, like, was there always a thing where it's like, oh man, I got this local legend in Turkey, and then I'm over here and somebody just grabbed it a couple of days ago?
Oh yeah, for sure.
I don't know this to be factual, but I'm going to guess you will have traveled and trained over the most mileage for a single marathon in the history of marathon running.
That could be true.
Right? I mean, you're going to continents. It's not like you were in Manhattan and drove to Philly for a business meeting,
You need to write a book. You need to get Strava to sponsor it and call the title "The Unlocal Legend."
The Unlocal Legend. That's actually great. You're gonna have to get copywriting for that.
Here's a question for you though. We're talking about balancing training and traveling, but you mentioned being an entrepreneur too. So, like, how do you fit all of this in, especially because you're in different time zones constantly, right? Like, be honest, how many meetings have you missed because you're like, oh, I'm in this time zone, they schedule it while you're like in the air, or end up somewhere else?
Too many to count. Too many to count. No, it's challenging, man. I mean, thankfully the company that we've built is it's an outdoor company, and we'll kind of get into it in a bit here. But I'm very fortunate in that, because it allows me, my team are very respectful of the fact that I'm training for this marathon. They've been very respectful of the fact that I have done an ultra, right? And it gives me the opportunity to test the product in many ways. But at the same time, we have this notion of, if you're going to work in the industry, you better be a part of the industry. And so the training is a part of the job in my mind, and I think my team members respect that. They see the need for it. Running has always been something that I've loved to do. And for me, it's kind of like one of those things that really takes my mind off of work and just general life. When you're in the zone and you're focusing step after step, it becomes the only priority for you. And so it really clears your mind. And because of that, I think it's a great way for me to balance my life in terms of all of this stuff going on.
Yeah, I think that's really important I had this conversation with somebody actually this morning when I was interviewing them. And I find that running is such a great way to hold space for yourself, especially as an entrepreneur. It's nice to do it, like have some fun with it, like put out that time block for yourself and go out there. And maybe you do. A lot of my best ideas come when I'm like running, and
Totally.
I think a lot of that is because like you go out there for a couple hours, it's the endurance sports equivalent of touching grass, as Jason would call it, taking a break from the work and just holding that space for yourself.
100%. Here's a question for you guys. Hot take. Do you run and listen to music, or do you not listen to music?
Ooh, I'm definitely a music guy.
Yeah.
There's as much pineapple on my pizza as there's music in my ears.
Get on very well, Jason.
So I listen to music when I'm doing like a zone 2 run or a monotonous road run. But when I do my long runs and get out to the mountains, or I'm 4 or 5 hours at a time, I do nothing at all and just like zone in.
So get this, dude. I literally have 2 songs on my phone, and they're both by the Pet Shop Boys. Like, that's how little music I listen to while I run. West End Girls and Opportunities by the Pet Shop Boys, and that's it. Nothing else. And it's gotten to the point now where this has become like an inside joke that we've taken outside of the company, where I'm running a 6-hour race around a 1-mile loop. And the challenge is for me to run with one song on repeat and see how long I can last around this 1-mile loop with the same song playing. Yeah, right. Like, I don't know if I'd even make it 3 minutes at this point, because I don't have AirPods in ever. So like that's going to be annoying to begin with, let alone the same song on repeat. So we'll see what happens. October 5th.
You're carrying your phone and holding it to your ear as you're looping the track.
There's a guy who's done this race. His name is Ray, and he's what we call a looper. He goes to all these looped races where he runs around a circle, 1-mile circle all the time. But he has a huge speaker in his backpack that he blasts music on as he's running, and that's what keeps him entertained the entire time, and obviously the field as well. But there's like zero music, man. No way.
Yeah, got to be in the zone.
That's it.
So I gotta ask you. I want to really dive into Girls Health app, and I want to tie it into the training that you're doing, because one of the things we talked about in the green room is your background in rugby, and how that ties into what you call running disease, which is a term I've never heard before. And I definitely want to talk about like managing injuries, managing workload and training, and how the Girls Health app is helping you do that in your training for the New York City Marathon.
Totally. Well, let me take it a step back and kind of give background on the rugby piece, because I think it loops in nicely. So I, for my whole life, since the age of 5, have played rugby. Very British sport. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's great fun. But definitely takes a toll on the body. And I'm feeling that now, especially starting long distance running. So as you know, rugby is quite a physical contact sport. And so you put your body through a lot of stress and strain. But in order to kind of deal with that, you've got to do a lot of strength and conditioning, right? And when I started long distance running, I decided to throw all of that out the window. I've never been a big gym person, always hated weights, but it was kind of mandatory for the sport. And so as soon as I stopped playing, that was gone. And I picked up long distance running. But as you can imagine, with long distance running, you kind of lose that muscle mass quite quickly. And as somebody who fine-tuned their body for so many years, that loss of muscle mass had a lot of complications for me. I started getting very tight IT bands, got a lot of back pain, got a lot of hip pain, knee pain. My ankles weren't particularly strong. And so I really struggled with it to start out with. I've always been quite injury prone as well, which didn't help. Being in a contact sport, found myself more on the bench than I was on the field a lot of the time. But I've always been really interested in health and in healthcare. Wanted to be a doctor, and very quickly kind of moved away from that and started focusing on healthcare products. And for me, as you guys know, travel is a big part of my life. My family's all over the place. And on top of that, sports is also a big part of my life. And so when I came to the US, I was shocked by how unaffordable healthcare is. I was like, coming from a socialist healthcare system where you just walk in and you get treated, that was a big change up in my life, especially as somebody who is kind of injury prone. So I really wanted to help contribute towards a product that intersects all of the different passions. And so for me, that ended up becoming this app called Goes Health. And that is what I've been working on for the last 2.5, 3 years. For those of you who don't really know what Goes is, it is essentially kind of like your pocket guide to outdoor safety. We've tried to democratize wilderness medicine and create a paradigm shift in how people are thinking about health and safety in the world of outdoor recreation. So many people, especially in the US, find themselves in backcountry settings where they don't have access to cellular service. It's very hard to get medical support. And you find that in these unexpected situations, you start to panic and you've got nothing to turn to. And so we wanted to offer a tool and a resource to help folks in those situations. And lucky for me, I use it quite a lot for that reason. Being a man who's constantly traveling, I don't have cellular service basically anywhere I go besides the US on an American number. So whenever something happens, it's really important that I have kind of a resource at hand. So we've been developing this for a number of years now. It is a really awesome product, and it not only kind of incorporates physical injury and illness, but what we're trying to do is create the most trusted outdoor health ecosystem. We're taking into account weather, we're taking into account physical injury, environment, terrain risks. We're really trying to provide a holistic understanding of kind of what does outdoor health look like at the end of the day for an outdoor recreationist, and what risks exist, right, besides getting injured. And so all of that kind of feeds into how I'm training for my New York City Marathon. I also used it kind of for the ultra that I was doing in Moab. There's a lot of places I've never been to before. And so the app really helps in being able to support me in figuring out what I need to know. But with regards to the training component, I think the first step is preparation. That's what everyone's going to always tell you, right? And as somebody who's never ran a marathon, it's very different to an ultra, but I'm on road versus trail, right? And so when it comes to preparation, you got to think about hydration, nutrition, your training plan. You got to think about the place that you're going to, weather. New York gets incredibly cold. And when I was training for my ultra, I was still living in New York at the time. So training in February for an ultra in March in Moab is like two completely different weather environments, And so to start my training, I always check the weather. In the app, we kind of have a dashboard. It tells you all of your weather information based on the location that you're in or where you want to go, right? So if I'm planning a trail run, I can search that trail run into the app and it will give me all the weather info, including UV, AQI. Elevation is kind of really important for me as well. So we've got that in there as well. Being kind of on the product development side, we get to choose what's in the app at the end of the day, what benefits us as outdoor folk. And so having that elevation component was immensely important. But I think what's more important is the fact that it's not just weather, right? Like, I care about health. I care about the direct impact on my health in the environment that I'm running. And so that's a unique component of that weather piece and goes. You get your location-based health risks, whether it's bad AQI that could lead to breathing issues, or whether it's high altitude illness risk, the wildlife risk. I'm running in a lot of different places. And so knowing what those risks are is really important. Yeah, Jason, go ahead.
I think the thing that I wanted to interject, especially because you just mentioned wildlife, is when we met at TRE, for those of you who are listening, Adam, Ohm, and I met at TRE in November, and they gave us a demonstration on the app. And one of the things that I thought was really cool was you showed us how, like, if you get bit by a snake, right, it gives you, and please correct me if I'm wrong, it gives you steps on how to take care of it. And that if you're still not able to take care of it, you're actually able to send a beacon, I guess I don't know if I'm using the right phrase there, to get a doctor to get help to come and help you because you've suffered from this snake bite.
Yeah, so that's my favorite component of the app. I always struggle with figuring out whether I have a strain, a sprain. I get a lot of hamstring issues as well, especially with the long distance running. Sometimes heat illness is a big problem, and figuring out whether it's dehydration, heat exhaustion. So this aspect of the app is probably, in my opinion, the coolest component, and it's the part that works entirely offline. And so if something happens, right, snake bite, dislocate your shoulder, get a tick bite, whatever it is in the outdoors, we help you step by step figure out what the issue is, how severe it is, and kind of what the next steps are to make sure that you're safe and back to full health. And kind of to your point, we have a 24/7 helpline as well. So there are 130 wilderness medicine physicians worldwide, I believe, and 30 of them work on this app. So it really is kind of like the most accurate and reliable stuff you can get. But more importantly, they're also the folks that staff the helpline. So if you do need to call them, you can share your location and they'll know where you are, what elevation you're at. And that's immensely important when it comes to kind of assessment, right? The environment and the terrain play a massive component there.
So I was going to ask you about this idea of training for the New York City Marathon, because it brings into my mind's eye road running, whereas it would seem, because we're talking about wildlife, you're going to be on the trail. So do you have an example of how the Goes Health app, would help somebody who's running on the roads on a consistent basis? Obviously, if you trip and fall, there's opportunity there, right, to use the Goes Health app. Are there other opportunities that you can see as an example for people who are using it specifically for road running?
Yeah, totally. I mean, look, I think in a place like New York, and it honestly doesn't matter where you are, I think climate change has impacted all of us, and now weather is so unpredictable, right? And so I think before you run, what I always do is I check for the weather on an hour-to-hour basis. I can see exactly when it's going to rain. I can see exactly when it's going to shine, right? I know what the wind is. In a place like New York, the mornings are so tough, especially in the winter, right? So I use it first to kind of plan when I'm going to run and whether there are any risks to know about. So that would be kind of my first suggestion. The second component is like searching a place. You know, I don't always run, even when I was living in Manhattan, I wouldn't always run in Manhattan. I would run in Brooklyn. I'd run up in the Bronx. I'd run up in Harlem, especially for the ultra. Had to get the elevation in. So running those hills was immensely important. And the weather, especially in New York, where you've got these little microclimates, same with the Bay Area, which is where I was before, right? The weather changes drastically. And so being able to search that location that you're going to run in, whether it's on the road or on a trail, is really helpful just to be able to prepare and know what stuff you're going to take with you, especially on these long distance runs. Now that I'm training for the marathon, you know, I'm finding myself running like 11 to 15 miles, fairly average, right? And so you got to pack stuff with you, but it's got to be light. And so it's important to know ahead of time. So that component of preparation is also super important.
We're about 10 weeks out from the race. How do you feel? Where are you in terms of training? How do you feel about it?
Honestly, I feel pretty good. I think that I'm not a big planner. I'm not a big, which is hilarious considering all that I've just said. But I did, like, for example, great story. For the Moab Ultraman, it was a stage race, right? And so it was 3 days, which made it a lot easier on the body. But
was it Run the Rocks?
It was Run the Rocks.
Okay. I knew it sounded familiar. Yeah. They put on a good show. Huda puts on a good show.
Huda's awesome, man. I love that guy. Always knows how to rile up a crowd. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
But day 2, I'm standing at the start line and I turn to the guy next to me. I go, so what does the course look like? And he's like, you haven't checked out the course? I was like, no, I haven't. And he's like, well, I hate to tell you this, mate, but there's going to be a 9-mile incline up a mountain. And I was like, so yeah, I'm not the best preparer, to be honest. And so the body still needs some work. But I will say, I think I'm at an advantage being in Mexico City because the elevation at 7,500 feet is putting me in a good place. And right now I'm like hitting 7:30-minute splits. So I'm hoping that by the time I get to New York, I'll be faster, but with the lower elevation, I'll fly.
By the time you get to New York, running 7:30 splits, you'll be up there at the front runners, dude. You better have a big shirt that says "Goes Health" as you're running, so you get on the TV.
You're
like,
right.
Who's this guy? Come out of nowhere. He's got a Goes Health T-shirt.
And I'm thinking about putting some text on the back that says, "Don't ask me about Goes."
I'll tell you this, dude. You said we're cut from the same cloth, so we don't want pineapple on pizza. We don't listen to music when we run, and I am the absolute worst when it comes to race guides. Like 0 times will I read them. I just, like you, I just show up to the event,
Yeah.
It's going to be what it's going to be, right? Like I could read the athlete guide 77 times. It's not going to change the 9-mile incline that I've got to run up.
100%. 100%. And that's why, honestly, it's probably why I'm so injury prone, because I don't follow a schedule. Yeah, all my friends are like, you got to follow a schedule for the marathon. You got to do this many fast paced runs. You got to do this many long distance runs. I'm just like, I wake up, whatever I'm feeling. I'm like, that's what's happening today.
I'm petitioning all race directors. Do a 5-minute video that you just read the athlete guide to us, and I'm in. Like when I raced Cocodona the inaugural year, I didn't read the athlete guide, but the RD basically read the athlete guide, put it up on YouTube, and I watched it, and I was like, cool, I know what to do now. Like I got it. So I'm begging RDs, just read the athlete guide to us, and those of us who don't want to spend time reading it will be dialed in.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, like, even though I'm a big planner, like sometimes it is, the more I do these longer races, the more I'm like, sometimes it's better just not to know. And a funny quick side story about that. Jason paced me the last 50 miles of the Tahoe 200. And the last 5 miles of that race, you're going, it's an out and back. You're going back to the Heavenly Stagecoach Lodge. It's starting to get dark. And, we're going, like, we're just climbing and we're climbing and climbing. And to this moment, like, this guy has been loyal to me for like 45 miles or whatever at this point, or like 48 or whatever at that point.
Like 18 hours.
18 hours. And then he sees an arrow and it's going up this like ski lift. And at that moment, Jason said, fuck you, I'm done. You can come, I'm walking down this hill. You can come to Heavenly on your own.
Because, dude, Adam, like, up the ski slope and you look to your left, there's the finish line. Like you can visibly see it. And I told Ohm, I'm like, there's no fucking way I'm going up this mountain again. Like I'm making a left here. I'm going to the finish line. You go up and come back down because I'm done. Like I'm out, dude.
Dude, I can picture that betrayal in real time.
Well, we found out that the actual trail was on the left and it was like a flat grade, but that arrow was looking like it was going straight up that ski lift.
Dude, they need to do better with the arrows. I gotta
100%. 100%. If they would have put an arrow up and an arrow left, however you want to do it, I would have been like, cool, it's right there. We make a left turn and we're good. Because I'm telling you, you can see the finish line. And I was like, we can't possibly have any more miles. We've gone 200 miles already. Like, why are we going up this mountain again,
Yeah, narrator, it was in fact 208 miles.
I could have used
I honestly think the people that put up arrows are just having a laugh with the community. I mean, Denver Airport, you go and it says departures left, and then you walk 5 minutes later, it's departures right. And you're like, well, now I'm just going to find myself running in circles.
You could put on one song and you could go around in that same circle. How long can you last?
They should do an ultra in Denver Airport. That's
just make sure you don't get attacked by any airport raccoons. The Ghost Health app can help you with that.
Speaking of the Ghost Health app, that day we could have used it because we were in Tahoe. We were at one point, it was really warm. And then we get as we're getting closer to the Heavenly finish line, it feels like it dropped like 30 degrees overnight. Like it got so cold. And honestly, that would have been a perfect use for the Ghost Health app to prepare, like, because correct me if I'm wrong, it sort of looks like a weather app. I'm putting that in air quotes for those of you that are listening. Right? By hour, it probably gives you what the temperatures are going to be in the locations you're looking for.
Yeah. So there are 4 main functionalities. You've got that weather component, and then you've got an entire library, and there's like 70 different topics in there, from like abdominal pain to blisters to chest pain, whatever, you kind of name it. But all of that's offline, right? So that with the protocols, the assess component. What's really neat about the assess piece is because I know a lot of people struggle. As like a former athlete, I feel like I'm kind of fairly well attuned with my body in terms of knowing, is it a strain? Is it a sprain? Is it worse? Right. But like, if you don't really know and you're feeling symptoms, especially in that sort of environment, right, where you've gone from really hot to really cold, you start sweating, you get clammy, you feel like you've got a bit of a fever, you can actually like tap the areas on an avatar where you're feeling pain and symptoms, and then we'll help you figure out exactly what you have based on where you are and the areas that you tap on this little mannequin, which I think is super neat, because all you need to tell us is basically what you're feeling, and then we do the rest.
Dude, that is awesome. So we're running out of time, because I want to make sure we get enough of these food questions in, because I know you're a foodie. Where can people go to get more information on the Goes Health app?
Yeah, great question. So you go to our website, it's www.goes.health. Also, if you'd like to give the app a free trial, you can use the voucher code Goes Outdoor. That'll give you a 1-month free trial. Super cheap regardless, but that'll give you some time to kind of play around with it. But those are 2 great resources. And if you want to kind of hit me up for any questions as well, I'll also kind of leave my email afterwards for folks to reach out to.
Fantastic. And before I do forget, we will be rooting hard for you at the New York City Marathon. Because you are a foodie, I expect you to take about 7 or 8 hours as you stop at every bodega and outdoor cafe on the way through the race.
100%. 8 hours. I don't think I can fit enough in 8 hours. Might have to be a 12-hour job.
Perfect. Even better. We're going to have to, Goes Health needs to partner with GoPro and film this excursion through the streets of New York City.
I'm going to be clicking the avatar for bloating halfway through.
It's like epic music in a documentary. The camera's following you, and then they lose you, and you're in an espresso shop or a pizza place.
Oh man, it's so true.
It would be awesome. All right, you ready we call them rapid fire food questions, but they are certainly not rapid fire. Take your time in thinking about the answers.
Okay, let's hear them.
Oreos. Do you go old school Oreo, double stuff, or what I call these abominations, thinsters, which are like, or thins, which are like Oreo crackers, or cakester, which is like a ding dong?
I'm OG. I like the OG. I like the OG. But if I'm gonna if I'm dunking it, I could go double stuffed.
So you're a dunker. You don't split apart and scrape?
Nope, I'm a dunker. I'm a dunker.
What do you dunk in?
Milk. Or hot chocolate.
Oh, I gotta try the hot chocolate one.
This is the first in our food questions where we diverge, because I am a 1-bite Oreo eater. Like, I just throw the whole thing in like an aspirin. I don't even dunk, no twisting.
Man, you're a monster.
I can't even count the number of times I've bitten an Oreo in half. I think it's every single Oreo in my life has just gone in the hole.
I don't know if we've talked about this, but I'm the pull it apart, like have the cream kind of person, and then bite the cookie.
Dude, but I respect that, because you savor the cookie. Unlike me and Jay, we just throw it back.
There's zero patience when it comes to eating, right? I go out to dinner with people, the food hits the table, I'm done in like 7 seconds, and they're all like, what just happened?
For me, it's how much can I get in my mouth in a minute?
Spoken like true endurance athletes.
Joey Chestnut and Adam Roeske in the next Food Fight Friday.
Yeah. Dude, that guy's crazy. I can't believe how he sinks hot dogs.
That's crazy. And Kobayashi, both of them. It's nuts.
Nuts. And he's also like stick thin.
Yeah.
Makes no sense.
I mean, we could get disgusting here, but can you imagine what it must be like to go to the bathroom after eating like 80 hot dogs and however long he eats it? Like, his stomach has got to be killing him.
He's got the plumber on speed dial, man. All respect.
Oh, that plumber definitely gets a raise every week. That's for sure.
Licorice, red or black?
Black.
Oh, you're an anise fan. You like that Sambuca flavor?
Yeah, although I will, if there was a third option, I would say neither.
There's always that.
I'm not a massive licorice fan, but if I had to choose, it would be black for sure. I like the anise.
Are you aware of what peeps are?
No.
Okay, so this won't make any sense, but next time you're in the States around Easter time, they sell them in every drugstore and grocery store. And I still don't know how they stay in business, but Peeps are a marshmallow that are covered in like a candied sugar, but they're awful. Like they're awful. And we've been told that they get better if you let them get stale. And so I have to interrupt those people. And I'm like, so you're taking a bad product, making it worse, and somehow it's going to taste better? Like that doesn't make sense.
We have to, well, before you answer that, we have to put that video up again because somebody actually sent Jason the stale Peep to try, and he ate it on camera.
It was awful. It's like eating a doorstop, dude. Like, why would you do this?
Dude, but there are certain foods, I swear, where if you leave them for a night, they taste better the next day.
Yes,
like
Pizza.
Lasagna, dude. Lasagna,
Ooh.
phenomenal the next day. Pizza, also great the next day.
Yeah. Like,
But that sounds like it's tough to swallow.
to begin with, while it's fresh, it's going to be tough to swallow.
Well, so I don't understand. Is the whole thing like hard or is it soft in the middle?
It's soft in the middle. Like, so the coating on the outside is like a candied sugar. And so that's like a crunchy bit, you know, but the inside's like a regular marshmallow. But I don't know. I'm out on it.
Wow. Yeah, that's not up my alley.
Candy corn. Is candy corn a real candy or is it just earwax covered in sugar?
Earwax covered in sugar, 1000%. Dude, what? That's not even a question.
Every time I ask this question, I just think to myself, don't go on LinkedIn looking for the chief marketing officer at Brock's Candy because they'll play this video for you and you're just going to lose the deal.
You know what? I always question people that eat candy corn. I'm like, there are so many better things out there, and you choose to eat earwax.
Every single time somebody has said yes to it, it's always tied to like nostalgia. Like I used to have it at my grandmother's house or something like that. So I think it's rooted in nostalgia.
My theory, my hypothesis is that on Halloween, families just have an abundance of candy corn that you come home with too much in your basket that you're forced to like it.
We could take that theory further. It's the candy corn that they brought home from Halloween that's been sitting in their house since 1978 that they're now passing out to the next kid.
That's why the C-listed restaurants in New York City are the best.
Peanut butter or nut butter? Do you go creamy or crunchy?
Crunchy.
Nice.
Crunchy.
When you make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, how do you make it? And I'll give you two examples. Do you put peanut butter on one slice of bread, jelly on the other, smash them together? Or do you put peanut butter and jelly on the same side and then smash the other piece over top?
So I like to do it one-on-one and then I smash. Because then you know exactly how much you're putting on each slice, you know? The problem with doing it, I also hate getting the knife messy where I'm like, now I can't, if I need to put more on, I now need to dunk it back in the jam. And now I've got peanut butter in my jam. I don't like to mix my condiments, man. That's just like, let me do one and then the next. That's how it's done.
Oh, it's like the I have too many chips for my dip or too much dips for my chip, you know?
We talk about this like you can't wipe the knife off. Like it's impossible. I gotta do it this way because I can't wipe the knife off.
Oh man! I'll tell you what gets my gears going though. When someone comes to my house, they make a PB&J. Next thing I know, they need to put more jam on it, but they want to lick the rest of the jam off the knife. So suddenly that massive tongue's licking off that knife, and it's going my worst nightmare right there.
It's the double dip, but with jam instead.
Double dip.
All right, so we've smashed the two pieces of bread together. Are you cutting it into 2 rectangles, 2 triangles, 4 squares, or 4 triangles?
So we missed a vital component here, which is I like to toast the bread first.
Nice.
So it has to be toasted. I like it toasted because then it melts the peanut butter and the jam slightly in it, you know, it cements it in the toast itself. But then I'll cut it in triangles and I go straight for the corner. And then the other
4 triangles or 2 triangles?
2 triangles, easier to hold. And I also don't feel as bad because if it was quarters, that's going in like the Oreo.
Unlike the Oreo, because I cut mine into 4 triangles, I eat it with my pinky up because it's like a fancy tapas now.
Yeah. Well, you got to make your way to England, to the Ritz-Carlton, so you can get yourself a nice meal PB&J at 4:00.
For 38 pounds or whatever they're charging me for a PB&J at the Ritz-Carlton.
Exactly. Most expensive PB&J you'll ever have in your life.
Red velvet cake. Is red velvet a real flavor, or is it just chocolate cake dressed up to go to the prom?
You see, I was going to answer option A until you finished option B. I've never even heard it described like that, and I think you might have just nailed it on the head with that. Oh, that's so good.
People are like, oh, I just love red velvet cake. I'm like, they're charging you $18 for a slice of chocolate cake with red food dye, Holmes. Like, just eat the chocolate cake.
Oh man, that's I'm gonna take that one home with me. That's brilliant. That's so
Without
good.
a doubt, that was the best reaction to that question ever. What's your favorite flavor of ice cream?
That's tough. I'm not one for favorites, I will say. So I'll preface it with that. But I've got to go with very rogue. I got to go with pistachio.
Ooh.
I like my Italian gelateria.
Yeah.
I like it. If it's well made, the pistachio is golden. But hot take, not a big chocolate fan.
Nice. Which is why you're not eating the red velvet.
Yeah. That's exactly why.
So then when you get a cannoli, are you getting it with the chopped pistachios on the end and just a normal shell, not a chocolate covered shell then?
Yeah, I'm getting it with the pistachios on the end. 100%. But dude, that's a weird dessert, cannoli. Can I just say what is that about? How did that even come out? How is that a thing, that cannoli?
He's out of New York City now, so he's totally fine waging war with the Italians now. What's next? Breaking pasta?
Don't break your pasta. Do not do that.
Never.
Like, this is awful. Like, you can't twirl. Now you got to use a spoon to scoop all the little pieces up. Get out of here.
I know, I can't do that. No, that's a betrayal to the Italian culture right there.
Do you have a favorite candy bar?
Cannoli's the same.
What's your favorite Italian dessert then? If cannoli is out, what's your favorite Italian dessert?
Gotta be tiramisu.
Oh, that's good.
Or actually, I do love a panna cotta as well.
Oh, that's really good too. My
So
favorite is the pignoli cookie. For me, you cannot go wrong with the pignoli cookie.
That's a great
so damn good.
That's a great shout.
Right? Like, it's chewy, that almond flavor. Oh my goodness, it's amazing.
So good. They're honest. They all slap. Italian full stop is just a brilliant cuisine.
You cannot go wrong. You just cannot go wrong.
You can't.
Although I'm not a big fan of cream sauces. Like, I'm not a big fan of pasta with cream sauces. Like fettuccine Alfredo, I'm out on. Like, I can't.
Yeah, that's fair. Are you a carbonara fan?
Yes.
You know, I love food so much. I spend hours on YouTube just watching crazy food tutorials. I'm just like, show me the 20 best cacio e pepes in Tuscany, and I will watch those 3 hours.
Yeah, and I would want to eat all 20 of them. Like,
yeah.
It is one of the more simple dishes you could possibly order at any Italian restaurant, but when done right, you don't need anything more.
No. It's all about the grind. You got to put those kernels in a mortar and pestle and just get it down, you know?
100%.
100%.
What's your favorite candy bar?
So I never had, my answer changed when I got to the US, because I will say you guys have a lot of snacks that we don't have in England, but I really love the Butterfinger.
Nice. Yes.
Dude, it's so good. I love the crunch, and then it kind of melts in your mouth. Fire. But I also love a Kinder Bueno. That's
Yeah.
That's
Hard to argue with that too.
a go-to for me. That's a go-to for me.
What's your take on the Cadbury egg?
If any of my English friends are listening, zone out. I hate it, dude. I don't like the Cadbury egg at all. It sucks. But so many people love it, and I just don't understand how.
Just the image of it, it weirds me out. Like you crack open this chocolate thing, and then like there's an egg-looking thing in the middle, and I'm out. Like I'm just out.
Dude, it's just so dense. You know those, we were talking about cake pops at the conference.
Yes.
It's one of those things just so dense that you can't enjoy it lightly. You know, it's like a meal. You're going in for a fourth course with a Cadbury egg.
We're entering fall. Starbucks has already put the PSL out. Are you a pumpkin spice or an apple cider guy?
I have to say, I don't think I've ever tried the apple cider. Is that like is that a frappuccino flavor?
No. It's like it's literally cider, apple cider with like cinnamon and nutmeg and everything in it. It's almost equivalent to like a tea, right? So
wow.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
Dude, that sounds unbelievable.
Yeah, they have a apple macchiato at Starbucks too, which I will get over the pumpkin spice. I'm not a PSL guy, like not at all. But apple cider is the jam, especially now we're getting into fall. And Scratch, who makes the hydration products, Scratch Labs,
Oh, yeah.
They used to have a apple cider flavor, which was great because you could warm it up in the fall, and while you're running, you're getting all the electrolytes and stuff and drinking that apple cider flavor. It's phenomenal. You can't go wrong with that.
I'll definitely put that on the list of things to try.
Are you a coffee drinker?
Actually, I've only had 3 coffees in my life.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's not because I don't like it. For me, it's kind of like, I don't like the idea of having to use something to wake myself up.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
That being said, I'm like recently, I picked up this new book recently called The Monk of Mocha. I don't know if you've ever read it, but it's amazingly a true story about this guy that basically, so Yemen is the first country in the world to cultivate coffee and turn it into production. And this guy's story is how he reinvigorated the Yemeni coffee industry and got it distributed worldwide. But after reading about 150 pages of this book, I walked out and got my 3rd cup of coffee. I was so inspired. I was like, bloody hell, this sounds unbelievable. So that was my 3rd cup. But no, you typically not a coffee drinker.
Do you drink tea then?
Love tea.
Are you a London Fog fan?
Yes, I am. Earl's Grey as well. Love a good Earl's Grey.
Man, I was introduced to the London Fog while I was living in Seattle, and it is unreal.
It's
like,
so good.
It is so good. In the afternoon where I don't want to get the caffeine jolt from a cup of coffee, London Fog is the answer. It's so damn good.
I'll tell you the worst thing that you can do going to London. If you're not a tea drinker, I've watched this happen multiple times where people who aren't tea drinkers come, they order a chamomile, and then they decide to put milk in it. And everyone in the restaurant, it's as if you've dropped a spoon in a Michelin star restaurant and the entire place is quiet. And everyone looks at you like you are an absolute idiot.
The same reaction you get at a pizza joint in New York City when you order pineapple on the slice.
Yeah. Second that.
Yeah, or you go to Italy and you wage war with the Italians by doing that.
You tell them, cannolis, what is this? Why would you eat this?
Yeah. Or if you ask for ketchup in Italy with your pizza, that's
Ooh, well, to be fair, that is good when it's done right, but only in certain countries. It's a thing in India for sure. Like
Yeah, I
ketchup
noticed
as a
that
condiment
actually.
in pizza. But for traditional pizza, yeah, for sure. You'd never catch me putting ketchup on my pizza.
You can eat one flavor profile for the rest of your life, savory or sweet. Which are you going with?
Savory.
Chocolate chip cookie or oatmeal raisin cookie?
Oatmeal raisin.
Ooh.
Yes.
Oatmeal
Yes.
raisin. 100%.
Pop-Tarts. Pop-Tarts, frosted or unfrosted?
I like you had to like the coming out like you're gonna say frosted.
Oh man, I'm gonna go with frosted.
Nice.
Nice. It's like your mind was like, it's like I could see the gears turning of like, I want to say frosted, but I was thinking of all the flavors of Pop Tarts in real time.
Did have you guys seen the Pop-Tart movie?
No. Oh, the one with Jerry Seinfeld?
Yeah,
I have not. Is it any good? Is it worth watching?
don't watch it. just don't. That's all I'm gonna say.
Cue up another episode of comedians in cars getting coffee instead.
Yeah, exactly. Or 3 hours of cacio pepe.
Last question for you. A tray of brownies is coming out of the oven. Are you going to the corner edge where you get a little bit of the crust and some ooey gooey, or are you going straight to the middle and you're getting all ooey gooey?
I'm going straight for the crust.
Nice.
I need a little bit of chew, a little bit of soft, and a little bit of crisp. That's the best combo.
Do you go a la mode with your brownie?
A la mode.
Yeah. So you put ice cream on top or no?
Oh yeah, if it's there, 100%, 100%.
Preferred flavor of ice cream?
Vanilla.
Or do you put nuts on your brownies? Do you prefer nuts on your brownies?
I'd dabble with a bit of nuts. Yeah, nice. I like the crunch.
So last week, the guest said they prefer caramel ice cream on their a la mode on top of their brownie, which is an excellent choice. But I tell everybody this: you're not a coffee fan, so maybe it doesn't work for you. But if you get coffee ice cream and you put the brownie in the bottom of a mug and you put the ice cream on top and you're eating it like that, so you get like a mocha, and then as the ice cream melts in there, now you got like a sort of like an affogato, and it's phenomenal. See, that's the reaction.
Hey, this might be the 4th time I have coffee.
Actually, this is the last question for you before we let you go, Adam. Best meal you've eaten in Manhattan, where was it and what was it?
Oh, that's a great question. You know what? Don Angie has just opened a sister restaurant, and that sister restaurant opened in my last week in Manhattan. I'm trying to remember the name, but they had this unbelievable dish, which was what's the word? It's kind of like it was a shrimp parm, and I'd never seen it before, but they did it so well. But that meal was ridiculous expensive. It hit my wallet hard, but it was good. It was bloody good, I have to say.
For the next few weeks, you were at the C-rated restaurant, saving money and eating food just as good, weren't you?
I was only in the Dominican Republic area of Manhattan.
Perfect, because that's where the good food is, man.
So good.
Adam, thank you so much for joining us. For those of you who are just tuning in live, goes.health is the app that Adam was discussing with us today. And if you use GOES, GOES outdoor, you'll get 1 month free trial. We'll put it in the notes as well. In 2 Sundays from now, this show will be available via our Everyday Athlete Podcast Network, wherever you get podcasts, Apple, Spotify, YouTube Music, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. And it will be up on our YouTube channel by Friday of this week, as well as our website. Adam, thanks so much for joining us. We wish you well at the New York City Marathon and the rest of your training.
Thanks, guys.